Hello there, I'm Carrie, and I am speaking today about motivation, and more importantly, how our mindset really can influence how we feel about tasks and whether we are determined or not, or how we see the effort we're putting in and what we then get out of the task that we've set ourselves. This is really important in terms of when we set goals for ourselves or when we are going towards something, we're aiming towards something in our life. And understanding how our inner dialogue can really change the outcome is important. So motivation isn't really the feeling of feeling motivated, it's more how we are perceiving and talking to ourselves about the task itself and the stress that might be involved and the effort that we need to complete that task. Okay, so I'm going to be using slides, and at the end of it, if you have any questions, please message me or contact me. I'm very happy to answer anything at all. And in addition to that, I'm also going to be running other webinars quite soon and a group program, more importantly, around how we talk to ourselves and how we can build our own confidence in our decisions and reduce that self-doubt that gets in the way of us moving towards our valued goals and direction. So I'm going to share the screen then now and talk through some of the concepts that I've been understanding and learning more about. I'm not an expert in all of this, but I really am interested in this. My background is occupational therapy, and then I've gone into cognitive behavioral therapy, trauma work, and confidence coaching for women in business and entrepreneurs. And this is really key and central. The way that we understand our mindset and the more awareness and knowledge you have about how your mind is working really empowers you to step back and not just automatically follow the patterns of thinking and behavior, but really consider, what's the best option for me? Is this helpful to me right now? How can I view this and perceive the challenges at the moment from a different perspective? So let's have a talk through this and discussion about what this might mean for you. All right, so I'm just moving through. Okay, so what I'm going to be covering today is understanding sort of what is mindset. It might be obvious, but it's quite useful to have sort of a shared understanding of that. And then some of the science, very light touch on that, but really neuroscience around mindset and how we understand learning, and the different types of mindset that have come up in the last 20 years, and understanding the difference between fixed and growth mindset, and then understanding how we might be able to build more into that concept of growing, learning and developing. And then finally, how does that link with motivation and strategies that you might be able to utilize to help you remain motivated, keep motivated when the going gets really tough. So that's the way that we're going to do it today. So what is mindset? So definition really is understanding that it's sort of a filter, I suppose. There's so much information going on that, how do we make sense of it all? And really it's about understanding that we might have ways of viewing our experiences lend themselves to sort of types of beliefs, and those beliefs can then become our way of viewing the world. It's like the lens, I suppose. The mindset is really like the lens that helps us sort of be in a certain way of looking at what's going on around us. So mindset is the established set of attitudes that we hold that's based around learnt experiences and some patterns, I suppose, of personality, of how we then take on information and experiences might be through that sort of biological pattern, but more importantly, the established sort of patterns of experience that we might build up over time. Now, what happens is that those beliefs become more under the surface. So we're not consciously aware of all these patterns. They just happen automatically over time. So our mindset is that set of beliefs and attitudes, but we're not aware of them all the time. They just sort of, we have them and they feel like they are our identity, but they can be changed and altered. The importance of understanding that our mindset is the perception of that shows us then over time the patterns and the way that we understand the world around us and how we are taking on challenges or not, how we view opportunities or not, is really then that understanding that we can see. Okay, so that's our mindset, and it really is that, if we sort of see it as the patterns of belief and our perception, it's the lens through which we see the world. But although it feels like that's us, it's really the built up over time, and so therefore it can change. And that's really where we come to the science. So this is based around neuroscience, and I'm not proposing that I'm an expert in this. I'm not a neuroscientist, I'm a therapist, but I have an interest and I like to learn about things. So I listen to different podcasts and I sort of try and read around subjects as much as I can. The brain is set up with neurons, and we have pathways in the brain where our brain likes to have order and organizes what happens through these neural pathways. Now, what we know is that when we were a child, we have very open plasticity. That's where the neurons can change direction and form different patterns and connections in order for us to learn things. And we used to think that as a child, we had that brain plasticity, and at a certain point it became static, that it was much harder to learn new things because our plasticity was much reduced. But what we know now is that the brain's ability is able to change and adapt throughout our life, and the neurons that fire up and then join together to help bring on board new learning can happen right into our old age. So it might not be as fast and as quick and as open as when we're children, but it's certainly present. And so the ability to change and adapt is constantly there. And it makes sense, really, because as humans and as mammals, the ability to change and adapt is a survival sort of mechanism that we need and can utilize through our lives. So taking on board that learning sort of idea that we are constantly able to adapt and change, the work of Carol Dweck that started in the late 90s, she's a psychologist in Stanford, and she has been working on how we can view situations and challenges from either a position of static, like if we have a view of ourselves, the mindset that we are a certain way, that we have certain abilities, then we might get stuck and not able to take on new challenges. And the growth mindset that she started working on was that idea that we can develop a different perception of challenge and how we take that on board. So if we look at that in a bit more detail, what the work that she did was with different sort of groups of people, and young people in particular, she would sort of give feedback to one group to say that the identification they had was that, say, they were intelligent or they were really good at athletics. So the praise would be given in quite a fixed way. So it was about them as their identity, as being, good at maths or good at soccer, say. And the other group, the praise and the identification would be more about how they took on tasks and the effort that was involved. It was more the doing of the task. So could be, rather than they were good at maths, it would be more about you really worked hard on that difficult question. You didn't give up on it. You set yourself something that was challenging and you saw it through. You showed good resilience. So the emphasis is more on the doing of the task, the effort that was involved, the challenge that was undertaken, rather than them as people being good at something necessarily. And then there was a sort of control group that neither got one or the other sort of set of praise. And the outcome over time was quite significant. It was repeated. And the group that were given the sort of praise around them as their identity fixed around, what they did, good at soccer, good at maths, meant that they were less willing to take on challenging tasks in the future. They rather stuck to what they knew they were going to be good at, because their identity was more attached to being seen as good at maths, if that makes sense. Whereas the group that were really praised for how much effort they put in were more likely to take on more challenging tasks, because they saw themselves as, I'm good at taking on difficult challenges, I'm good at working through things. So they would push themselves, and the potential that led to meant that they achieved more than the group that were given a different sort of strategy to that in originally. And they repeated this many times and started to understand that how we believe ourselves to be is more important than where we are right now. So the way that we talk to ourselves is more important than how much we can do right now. How much we can do right now is not set. And it's not something, even if we think it doesn't mean it's true. Now, finally, there's also been some work done by, again, American, I think she's in Stanford as well, Ali Crum, on the work on how our sort of taking on challenges can be influenced by our view of how stressful that challenge is. And stress enhancing or stress as a reduction can really impact on performance in our minds. So what that means is, if you view stress as something that's going to limit your performance, then it's more likely that it will. If you view stress as likely to enhance your performance, it's going to help you improve your focus, improve your concentration, improve your determination, then it's likely that it will. And that's the interesting sort of added aspect, that is not only about our ability to sort of view effort as meaning that we might get things done, but how stressful it is, because it's really arduous and it's not easy. It's uncomfortable to push ourselves out of our comfort zone. The work by Ali Crum has sort of shown that what we believe about that uncomfortable stress either enhances or doesn't through our mindset. So hopefully that makes sense, but that's really interesting work. So I thought it's really useful to share that. So let's just delve a little bit more into the fixed mindset, growth mindset, and then the stress enhances performance mindset. So to reiterate then, the fixed mindset, I've gone forward and backwards there. There we go, come back again. The fixed mindset is the belief that abilities and intelligence are static. So there's a sort of belief, say I would have about myself, a fixed mindset around my ability to learn languages. Now, when I was in school, I struggled with it. I didn't find it easy. Other children found it much easier than I did. And I told myself, I'm no good at languages. I'm rubbish at languages. And that is a fixed mindset. It doesn't make me more motivated to try and learn a language now, because I've been telling myself for many, many years, it's no good. It's no good me trying, because I don't take it up easily. I can't remember the words and I'm not going to get there. So no bother trying. So it has led to me avoiding challenging myself. It's avoiding me going when I'm abroad to try and speak a little bit more, because I sort of see that, I'm never going to get anywhere. So what's the point in trying? Now, a growth mindset around the same idea where I am right now is, I'm not, not the best at languages, but the belief that, if I put in more effort, if I, bit by bit, sort of help myself and challenge myself, I can learn more about it. I can get better at languages. I can get better at speaking French, of understanding French, if I keep going at it and keep nibbling away, maybe downloading a Duolingo app and just going at it bit by bit and talking to people more regularly. I will get better at it. So that is a growth mindset. And you can see how you're more likely to sort of take up challenges because it's about the effort and the action that you're taking, not about, oh, well, I can't speak to people in French, so therefore it's no point in me trying. I'm never going to be good at it. I'm limiting myself. Whereas with the growth mindset, I'm persisting. I'm more likely to sort of try things, look for ways that I might be able to that might enhance my learning for myself, because one way that I learnt at school might not be the most helpful way for me. So I might look for other opportunities and see if there's other people that have tried things differently. So the growth mindset is looking at the doing of the activity and that perception that the doing of it is the enhancer, the way that I'm going to increase my intelligence, increase my ability, not by just knowing that what I'm at now, that's how it's going to be. Now, adding to that, the stress enhances performance mindset. If I feel like, well, yes, I understand the growth mindset and, it's about, going through, putting the effort in. But if the effort feels really uncomfortable and it's really stressful to speak to somebody in French and I'm finding it really uncomfortable and that I don't think they're understanding me. If I see that stress as proof that I'm not really that good at it, you see, that stress shows me that I have a limitation, that I'm never going to be good at this. If you think about it that way, then you're more likely to give up again. Whereas if you see the stress and this is really uncomfortable, but I'm going to learn something from this, and just having this sort of stress within me means I'm more likely to focus on trying my best to understand, and it's going to enhance my ability to take this on. Then what you believe about that is going to help you manage the performance of what you're doing. Okay, so hopefully, you've sort of got a sense of that from what I'm saying. So if we go back over what are the characteristics then of a growth mindset rather than a fixed one, it's to look at challenges rather than threats. So something that we're uncertain about, rather than seeing what's going to go wrong, it's seeing that, okay, this is going to be something still difficult. It's still going to be an effort. It's not going to be easy, but I don't see it as a threat to me as a person. I'm not being challenged as a person. I'm embracing the challenge for trying something new. We also see criticism or people's sort of view or judgments about what we're doing in a slightly different way. So we maybe are more open to hearing people's disagreement with what we're doing as, okay, so how can I understand this better then? What is it that I'm missing that you're helping me to try and understand? Now, obviously, some criticism can be very deliberate and trying to be undermining, but it's about discerning, is this criticism helpful to me or not? So you don't have to take on criticism, but you can learn what is it about what they're saying that is useful to me and what isn't useful to me. Rather than a fixed mindset where criticism is automatically seen as, yep, it's true, I'm no good at this, I shouldn't have done it, I'm never going to do it again, I don't want to have people's judgment. So it's seeing criticism as something fundamental to you and your self-worth. Whereas from a growth mindset, it's about the opportunity to learn from what other people are maybe saying, because some criticism is helpful to us. It might be constructive criticism, seen as a way that that's not the best or most optimal way of doing that task. Can you maybe consider something else? So that sort of criticism is really helpful. When we are in a growth mindset, We are less likely to be fearful of how other people are doing things, that we're not going to be comparing ourselves and despairing that we are not as good as somebody else, or they've so much better, or, I must prove myself to be better than them, or else, I'm not good enough. But it's looking at what clues has somebody else left to how they have reached their target. What are the things I might learn from other people and the way that they're doing? So you're not feeling inferior or superior to anybody else. You are really looking for what is it about how they're doing something that I might be able to take inspiration from. Fundamentally, that belief in the effort and persistence. So that's something characteristically about the growth mindset, that we're looking at the verbs, really, the doing verbs. What is it about what I'm doing that is helping me move forward? And finally, that resilience and adaptability. So rather than a fixed sort of view and maybe having to plan and prepare everything so that I know where I'm going and what's going to happen next, it's really being open to, let's see what happens, let's adapt to what comes up. And I have the confidence in myself to learn as I go along. So then you're less likely to be fearful of things not going quite to plan, because you see that the plan can be changeable anyway. And things might not turn out in the way that you were expecting, but it's more consistent with the overarching view that I'm going to learn something from whatever happens next. So it's not so much success and failure, it's more about challenges and overcoming barriers and obstacles along the way towards the goal. And the goal itself might change, and that's the adaptability too. All right, so what are the benefits? So this is where, I wanted to link it really with motivation, because you can sort of understand really that motivation comes from the doing. And if we are enabling ourselves to not set ourselves up that it's got to happen in a certain way and I've got to achieve a certain thing, then it's less threatening to start something when we don't know how it's going to turn out. We're more likely to want to try something and see what happens and learn from that, rather than sort of wait until we feel like everything's in our, all lined up and ready to go and I know it's going to be a success, because that we can wait a long time. And I know when working with people, when they're feeling very anxious or depressed, motivation is sometimes a real issue. And I find people are sort of waiting, I will start doing that when I feel more motivated. And unfortunately, waiting till you feel motivated is really missing the point, because motivation comes from when we start doing something and see that what we do makes, we've made some change or a step or a move forward, then we're more likely to repeat it and try and do a little bit more. So when I say to people who are depressed, I say, don't think, just do. What I mean by that is the more you can just try things out and see what's working for you, the more your motivation is going to come. So it increases your motivation, and that's what I think is really important, to really reiterate that. But it also means you're going to learn things and you're going to sort of enhance that ability to achieve certain things that you otherwise wouldn't have, because you're not avoiding so much. You're getting on with things. You have a more adaptive perception of when things go wrong. You're not so worried about it meaning something about you as a person. You're seeing it as, what was it about that maybe didn't work out? How can I manage that differently next time? So your resilience to adapting to problems becomes greater, which leads to the next thing, that actually problem solving skills increase, because we are now dealing with the actual situation of what we're doing at the moment, rather than worrying about what might or might not happen in the future. So we get greater levels of satisfaction in the moment, because we're not waiting for that satisfaction until everything's right and everything's perfect. We are seeing that we are putting something in, we are making something happening, and that in itself feels good. So it's not about getting the A in the maths exam. It's not about being able to speak, to, someone in France, perfectly. That is great if you do get to that. But it's about that sense of, gosh, now I can speak a little bit more, and I can ask for things in French that I never could before. And I'm really pleased with myself that I've been able to get to this point when I never thought I could. So it's about that learning along the way and really gaining that sense of achievement along the way. The process of learning becomes satisfying rather than the outcome. So that's really, something to sort of think about. So how do you develop it then? Is it something that you already are aware of within yourself? So really notice that you might have a more of a growth mindset in certain areas. So maybe in creativity, you might be aware that you're not so worried about things, you try things out. And in other areas of your life, you might be quite fixed. So say like, tasks at work, you might be really worried about trying out something new in the workplace and what people might think. So your mindset might vary in different situations. So that self-awareness, recognizing what's my mindset around this, what is the threat here, and what am I missing, what am I not seeing as maybe a challenge and an opportunity rather than something where it's just going to go wrong and this is awful and I'm no good at this. So be watchful and mindful about the way you talk to yourself and that recognition. If it's sort of closed sort of statements about yourself, then that might be where you are maybe falling into a bit more of a fixed mindset. So the ability to reframe your challenges, and that's something I work with people, how to update your viewpoint and that sort of inner dialogue and inner critic that might hold you back, be fearful of failure, fearful of taking on things that might be judged by other people. So that fear of criticism might hold you back. So I'm running myself a group program around that coming up in October. So at the end of this, you can register for that if you want to, because that's something that we're really helpful to a lot of people that I work with. Again, developing your growth mindset, really be focused on the, noticing this is tough and I'm really, pleased with myself that I'm putting the effort in. It's something that I can recognize and I value in myself, that I'm trying, and every step I take forward means that I'm getting a bit clearer, I'm getting a bit more knowledge about something. So really focus on the effort rather than the outcome. And seek feedback. The better you are at getting used to asking for feedback, not reassurance seeking, am I okay? Is this okay? But more, what am I doing here? Is there anything I'm missing? What would be your view of what I could improve or develop? So it's not looking for reassurance that, am I okay? Am I doing okay? But more of a more rounded, what is it that I can utilize from what I'm doing already? Is there any areas I can improve? What recommendations would you give me? So you're seeking that feedback to help you grow and develop. And acknowledge always the growth that's happening. So if you've had a setback, acknowledge, do you know, I've been more robust this time. I haven't, it hasn't deflated me so much. I've really taken from that where maybe I could improve these tweaks and try again and see what happens next time. If I don't try it, then I'm never going to know. So celebrate the growth just of being able to tolerate things not going well and the disappointment that you might still feel. Because, growth mindset doesn't mean you're not going to feel uncomfortable, feel sometimes disappointed, or feel upset that it hasn't gone to plan. But it's about acknowledging that's okay. It's part of this process. So how do you stay motivated? How do you keep yourself going when the going gets tough, basically? what I say to people, and again, I'm doing a goal setting strategy masterclass on the 16th of October around this. So how to set clear goals. It's about recognizing goals that matter to you as well. So being specific, allow those goals to be really achievable, but are they something that is of value to you, that matters to you, that feels like when the going gets tough, you want to continue, however hard it feels to carry on. Because again, that's part of that, seeing the stress of carrying on as that's okay, I can do it. I want to try. I want to push through this feeling of discomfort because it's worth it to me. The goal is worth it. It doesn't mean I'm worthy or not worthy, but that the goal for me is worthwhile. As much you can, once you've set a goal, break that task down into really, really easy chunks. The larger the goal, dividing it into more manageable pieces, the smaller the better. Because when you've got a task that feels like, yep, I can do that, then you're going to do it. So in your mind, really break it down. If it feels like that still feels quite an ask, then you haven't broken it down enough. And maybe talk that out, get support around you. So gathering that support, getting encouraging friends to try and help you make that more realistic, and also to be accountable. Accountability really helps with motivation. So if we tell somebody else we're going to do something and we've shared our strategy with them, then they are more likely to come back and ask us, right, okay, how have you got on? Do you need anything from me? What's gone well? You're able to really talk that through. Something that I also, really embed when I'm working with people is visualization. When we imagine in our minds, visualizing ourselves going through a task and imagine ourselves actually completing maybe that small step that's towards our goal. In our mind's eye, if we are doing that, then we are, in a sense, remember that neuroplasticity, we are starting to fire up neurons together. We are building in our mind that ability to focus and take action on what we want to. So when we visualize, it's almost as clear for us as if we are seeing it out there in the world. Our brain doesn't differentiate that much between the imagined visual image that we hold in our mind and what we see. So, I mean, sports people do it all the time. They imagine themselves doing certain activities and say, David Beckham, used to in the past use visualization and practice in his mind over and over doing those free kicks. And that built up the neuro pathways in his brain to help his motor access into his muscles become stronger. And they've done lots of experiments on people to sort of utilize that visualization. So in one study I read, they had a group of people who had a plaster cast put on their arm, and they had one group who were doing sort of physical exercises on their arm. They had one plaster cast who were visualizing doing those exercises, and they had one group in a plaster cast doing nothing. And what they found, obviously, the group who didn't have the plaster cast, they were stronger, but the group who had the plaster cast on but were visualizing doing the activity with their wrist were stronger. Their muscles were remained stronger than the control group that didn't. So there's something about the visualization that enables those neuro pathways to be created or maintained, and that helps us with our action and outcome. So visualizing your success, imagine what would happen if you're doing that task. Imagine walking through that task. That will enable you to reach the outcome in a more helpful way. So staying motivated, create routines and habits that help you in your tasks that you've set yourself. So routines and structures really do help. Writing in your calendar, setting out realistic timings for what you can and can't do can help you stay motivated. If you give yourself, right, I'm going to exercise for an hour and a half each morning, and after day 2, you just can't sustain it. If you've got a fixed mindset, then that's it. I can't do it anymore. But if you say, set it like that, and then you realize actually the routine is good, but I need to adapt this to make it more manageable for me, and then I will be able to sustain it. Your growth mindset might tell you, okay, good try at doing it for an hour and a half, but that's too much for me right now. So let's just do half an hour each morning. And let's see, keep to the same routine, but let's adapt it to make it work for me more easily. And then let's see what happened. So it's not seen as an all or nothing. It's not, that means I can't do it. It's like, okay, that maybe was, too much for me right now. And I need to learn from that and adapt. Okay, so some practical exercises. So like I was saying before, with the visualization, so practice sort of mindful meditation, getting yourself sort of ready to take on tasks, sort of understanding how you are managing stress, and visualize. Journaling, noticing the tasks that you're doing and really activating that recall of how you're doing things, why you're doing things, what you're wanting from them, so that you're really focused on the doing of the task rather than any outcome. Create a vision board really to help you visualize, get a magazine if it's something that you can sort of see, and place them all in front of you so you can look at that and then in your mind's eye visualize what that would look like in your own life. Affirmations, growth mindset affirmations are not about outcome. They're about, you're a really determined person. You don't give up easily. The effort is worth it. So affirmations like that reinforce the beliefs about, stress is good for me. Stress helps me achieve what I want. Stress helps me to focus on what matters in my life. So you're utilizing some of those affirmations in a way that's promoting you continuing and taking on what you need to. And yeah, utilize podcasts, collaborative projects, engaging in group work and discussions. Join my Unstoppable Confidence goal setting group that's going to be in October. I'd really like you to be there. It's all free, and it's a masterclass that I'm running just because, putting some of these aspects into operation and finding your goal that you want to start moving towards, we can help each other to get, by the end of that session, a really good, useful sort of goal and orientation based on growth mindset. Okay, so October the 16th, that's the masterclass that I'm going to be running at 4 o'clock. That's UK time. It will be recorded. So if you can't make it on the day, then I'm able to send that out if you've registered, obviously, for it. So that's what's going to be happening then. And I just want to share as well, I think I have in the chat. So there's the link to register for that free masterclass that's coming on the 16th of October. Okay, well, thank you for your time. I'm going to stop recording now, and I have time for questions if you have any. Okay, but hopefully see you on the 16th.